Good afternoon. Dzień dobry.
Not
Witam
right
Państwa
now.
bardzo
We are not yet. I will text you in the chat, okay?
Okay.
And we'll be online.
Okay, I'll start. Dzień dobry. Good afternoon. First, I'm going to introduce the event in Polish and then we'll switch back to English. Dzień dobry, witam Państwa bardzo serdecznie na 16. edycji Lubelskiego Festiwalu Filmowego. Witam osoby zarówno w Lublinie, jak i osoby z całego świata, które postanowiły do nas dołączyć, do naszej dzisiejszej rozmowy poświęconej turystyce kulturalnej, turystyce festiwalowej. Przypominam, że Lubelski Festiwal Filmowy w Lublinie do 26 listopada, więc można jeszcze stacjonarnie w festiwalu wziąć udział. A dzisiejsze wydarzenie jest współtworzone także przez głównego partnera festiwalu, Polską Organizację Turystyczną. Zachęcam do zadawania pytań. Można to robić także w języku polskim, nie tylko w języku angielskim. Najlepiej w komentarzach lub w czacie. Ja przetłumaczę pytania na język angielski i nasi goście będą mogli odpowiedzieć. So, good morning everyone. Welcome at our conversation, Lublin Media Meetings, Culture, Tourism, Practices, Challenges, Perspectives. This event, this talk, is a part of Lublin Film Festival taking place in Lublin as we speak. Unfortunately, we are not there. We are here online to talk about culture tourism. Kind reminder for everyone who can still make it, the festival will take place in Lublin still till the 26th of November in the Center for Culture in Lublin, and the full program of the festival is available at its website. One more remark, we would like to thank the co-creator of the festival and the general partner, Polish Tourism Organization, who supported the festival. So my name is Emilia Mazik and I will be the host and moderator of this session. And I have this amazing guests here with us who will share their experiences in the field. Just one more technical remark before I'm going to introduce them. Feel free to ask comments, questions through festival social media or also in the comment section. We will be able to address them at the end of the session. So please join us. So today I have a pleasure to have with us Urszka Breźnik from Stop Trick International Film Festival in Slovenia, also the director of Pekarna Magdaleńska Mreża Cultural Organization. Hello.
Hello.
Also Sven Schwarz, managing director of Kurzfilm Festival Hamburg from Germany, also one of the founders of A Wall is a Screen, amazing initiative traveling the world for many years already, and Yanis Abele, a filmmaker who might be known for short film, feature film, and now working also on his first feature documentary from Latvia. Hello, everyone.
Hey. Hello.
Yes, let's jump right into it. And I would like to begin this conversation with maybe giving our audience a little bit more of the context of the organizations that you represent and the profile. This is maybe a question directly to Sven and Urszka. If you could tell us how do you work with your local and regional audience and the international profile of your organization? And to Yanis, as you are a more individual person, not with no organization behind you, how do you function within the industry, and how the international part or profile of film world is influencing your career or choices as an artist? So whoever would like to begin, please go.
Turystyka, you want to start?
Okay, thank you. So Emilia, as you said, our organization, Pekarna Magdalenske mreže, so we are basically stationed in Maribor in Slovenia, and Stoptrik film festival that is dedicated completely to stop motion animation is one of our strongest programs. Maybe there is a slight difference between what usually happens, who produces the festival, and what is specific to us, is that we are not an organization that only deals with film and not only with stop motion animation, because we also have a lot of visual programs. So we have an international Gastrum Maribor artistic residence program that is like a combination of various artists that come to Maribor for a month and creating their own media, with Stoptrik, who is dedicated, as I said, completely to stop motion animation. We are lucky enough that the international collaboration started from the beginning. So when the festival was born, actually it was the idea of our co-worker Lucia Smodish, who is the producer of the festival, and at that time of the Olga Bobrowska and Michał Bobrowski, who are now director and program director of the festival, who are actually European Voluntary Service volunteers in our organization. So 12 years ago. And because this international team started the festival, and because the festival is quite, let's say, because it's very specific, dedicated to stop motion animation, it has like a strong international following, not big because it's such a niche festival, but still very loyal, I would say, visitors and artists. And because Olga and Michal also travel the festivals quite a lot, it's actually not so difficult to gain the international audience, also because of our organization's other partners and other programs. But maybe what we will speak about later in more detail, it was also very important to us to get the local audience and the national audience to come to the festival and recognize the importance of having like this specifically dedicated stop motion, not only fans, but also to develop the art of stop motion here in Slovenia in collaboration with professionals from Slovenia.
Thank you very much. And could you mention the next dates of the festival?
Yeah. So the next dates are the 27th of September until 1st of October 2023.
Okay, so you have a full year now.
Almost a full year to prepare to come. Yeah.
Okay, should I go on? Yes, so I'm from the Kurzfilm Festival Hamburg, the Hamburg International Short Film Festival, which is in its 38th year now. Our next edition, the 39th one, will be early June next year. Funnily enough, since you just mentioned the international aspect, we basically dropped the word international from our title of the festival I think 3 years ago, because it was, in German, it's a very, very long name of a festival, Internationales Kurzfilm Festival Hamburg. That's quite a bit. But actually, we figured out that even though we are very international, we thought film is always international. I mean, you should just actually have to name it a national film festival and then try to figure out that you can't do any co-productions or whatever. So that's why we dropped that, because we thought, okay, by now everything is international in a way. And I think a difference with our festival is the way that it was started. I mean, let's say somebody almost 40 years ago, without any plan at all, started a festival just because out of the love for short film. So when it started, there was no idea or no plan how to attract audiences and how to bring films to an audience in general. It was basically about screening films and having a party with it. And then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And by now we have every year around 16,000 visitors at the festival, out of which we have approximately 650 industry guests. So this is quite a reasonable size of audience there. And then we have visitors from, let's say, approximately 40 different countries coming to Hamburg. The majority, of course, is from Europe. If you look at different countries, but then we actually try to widen our audience that's on site to countries that we want to have present in Hamburg, and that we want to connect with on the one hand our audience, and of course with the filmmakers and industry people that visit the festival. So the aspect of getting people together from different countries and meeting on site, which is one of the issues that we will be talking about today as well. That's very important to us. So bringing people together, that's the main thing, of course, while watching and presenting great short films. And yeah, so just in a nutshell, what we're doing here in Hamburg.
And next dates, that will be my question of today.
June 6 to 11, 2023.
Okay, so also summertime, nice weather in Hamburg.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Hopefully.
So I guess it's my turn. Yes, I am Jan Sabel, and I'm based a filmmaker, based mostly in Riga, and once in a while trying to be in Paris as well. And yeah, I'm doing filmmaking for almost 10 years. I have done 2 feature films, which, by the way, both of them have been in the program of Lublin Film Festival. Yes, recently this year I released my short documentary essay film 81 meters, which is now currently traveling and having its festival circuit, and then I'm still applying, and it was premiered in May, so it's still traveling, and also was presented on if I'm not mistaken, on Sunday in Lublin. So yeah, and you mentioned and actually recently I have also become a bit like a producer, so there is some kind of institution behind me, but it's I won't talk as a producer because it's too soon to talk about anything international. As I just produced my self-directed first short film. And about international aspect, I think Sven described it perfectly. Like cinema is international. You just have to put on subtitles, and on the one hand, yes, of course, it's watching films from all around the world, but yeah. For me, it's very important to go to the festivals as well. Maybe I'm not the guy who is obsessed with doing marketing for himself and going abroad and telling how amazing I am. I hope I should probably do it more, but I feel there is some kind of, in a lot of aspects, which most probably we will discuss later, there are a lot of aspects how going to festivals also not only professionally and network wise, but also artistically can inspire.
Yes, you mentioned also, Yanis, I will stick to that for a sec. You mentioned that your film is currently traveling, but are you also visiting many festivals like in this season 2021, 2022, the beginning of getting back to normal, whatever that means after COVID? Do you have time and space to still go to festivals while you also are developing already a new film?
Going to the festivals, as I mentioned, is an important thing for me, and I still consider it a bit like a kind of a benefit or bonus after you have, especially in the last part of filmmaking, when you have spent months or year in editing room and then in sound post-production in dark rooms in the cellars. You have spent months. Then it's kind of for a filmmaker and especially for like kind of a short film where you obviously I don't earn nothing with that film. It's just a bonus that I can go to some kind of festivals. But you asked about 21 and 22, like
yeah,
well,
that's when the pandemic kind of was not the main headline in newspapers anymore.
Well, if we talk about, if I can talk a little bit about the pandemic aspect, my previous feature film, which was released in autumn 2019, if I'm not mistaken, Jelgava 94. So yeah, it was premiered in Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival, which was kind of, I thought, okay, it's kind of good that we premiere in A-class festival, and then I was hoping that the film will travel more. But you know, Tallinn is in November, and on the February or March started the complete lockdown, so rest of the festivals went offline, and during the pandemics I wasn't finishing any film. I was just starting to write, so I didn't have anything to travel with. When the world opened during the pandemics, I made this short film with which I started, as I mentioned, traveling 22, and I'm not going to all the festivals, but I try to visit some with this film, yes, as much
about
as
the motivations, why we travel and how do we decide where to go. We will come back to that, but I would like to come back to the festivals. And you mentioned already a crucial part, that our events are international in its core, but actually how to balance that, how to translate the industry, its needs, and how it's built to local audiences. I'm very curious of Urszka's experiences, also because your festival has a little bit of traveling formula. So you also work not only with people, audience in Slovenia, but also in Łódź in Poland. So if you could tell us a little bit more about that and how you balance that and how you engage local audiences and justify bringing this international community to different places.
Yeah, so I can speak more from the perspective of Maribor. We are very happy that actually the festival has 2 locations in 2 different countries. The edition in Łódź is a bit shorter and not it doesn't have as many programs as the Maribor one, and it's more focused at the moment on film education, so attracting younger audiences, but also showing the competition program, but also taking place in specific institutions that are connected to the audience that we would like to attract to the screenings. While in Maribor, it's there is a specific in Maribor, we don't have actually anymore what you would call an art cinema. They were like destroyed in the 90s with the privatization of everything, and now we only have like big cinemaplexes, and there is a lack of proper venue for cinema screening. That's why for the past many years we have the main venue in the Vetrinsky Mansion, which is like a hall that can be turned into a cinema, but it's still not a proper cinema. However, since the venue is very beautiful and has many different services attached to it, we are for that reason quite happy with the venue, and it's in the city center, and it has a gallery next to it. And this is also a strategy of our festival, so not only to offer like screenings and discussions for professionals, but also to have a lot of accompanying program, which is we specifically at that time organize exhibition that is connected to stop motion in the gallery next to the festival. We have a lot of good concerts that when we plan them, we also plan them with the audiovisual accompaniment that is made by a stop motion artist or any other artist that we often collaborate with. So this is one way to attract local audiences. And what was very important, because I say stop motion is really like a niche artistic expression, especially the smaller the country, the smaller number of people from the local environment or the national environment that are attracted to it. However, through the years, we have managed to build good collaborations with some of the universities, especially University of Nova Gorica, who has a stop motion animation program. And we collaborate with them through the years. And this year, we were part of an Erasmus exchange program of the University of Nova Gorica, and they invited other universities from Poland, Portugal, Croatia, and Austria. And the students came to the stop motion animation workshop, professional one, with script writing and stop motion technique, which was led this year by Hugo Covarrubias, who is a Chilean director who was nominated for an Oscar this year, but last year his animation Bestia won the stop motion award at Stop Trick Festival. But so yeah, the international audience is also always very happy to come to Maribor, especially what I think it's important that the actual artists come. So I think for our festival, we want to keep it like very oriented into the artistic community. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important to us that as many animators as possible come to the festival and give them the opportunity to make it possible for them to come.
May I jump on that? Yeah. I'm very curious. And what do you offer them when they come, apart from, of course, the possibility to attend the festival?
So we have this strategy that we try to offer to as many as possible. It depends on the finances, the accommodation, and try to travel at least part of their traveling cost. But this is, each year we decide on that depending on how big the budget is, but we do try to offer them that. And although we understand that it's also important for other festival like producers or curators to come to the festival, I still believe, and I think that most of the team is behind that it's basically the festival of the artists. And it also that is what makes it, I think, very very attracting for actual people who are involved in making an animation. And because we were very lucky in 2020 and 2021 that we, despite the regulations that were in place, we were able to have the festival live both years. And at that time, we were extremely happy that we had full halls of audiences of local people and national Slovenian artists, animators, and that showed us that despite that there were no international guests, that we still were able to have like a full hall of audience that was really happy to welcome festival in the live version. And it showed us that despite of what we may think, that still local audience appreciates the stop motion festival being held in their city.
Yeah, and over the years they might become real experts. I like that value, added value, that if there are very specific events, I could experience that in Poznań at Shortwave Festival, that we have very loyal audience coming to monthly screenings, that we also organize a film club, and then compared to people from other cities, they really might, in the long run, know a lot about a very specific medium. Sven, please share with us more of a context of Hamburg, because I like a lot. I visited the festival a few years back, and I was extremely pleased with the amount of people, many international guests, and very chilled atmosphere, very welcoming. So I'm very curious, like, what are your strategies, not only to attract people to come to the festival, but also, yeah, you also built your venue basically a few years back. And also, just to jump back a little bit, also on Wallis' screen, I think it's one of the most democratic film initiatives, inviting everyone who can see the cinema basically coming to you. So, yeah, what would be the, how Hamburg is benefiting actually from having Kurzfilm Festival there for how many, 39 years already? Yeah.
It's 38 years now, yes. Okay, so let's say three main things. Just to do the brief thing, yes, a wall is a screen. I'm not sure if everybody around actually knows it. It's a project where you walk around town and you screen films on house walls and other structures. So you basically have like a mobile cinema with you. You don't do any build-ups or setups. It's just like you and the audience walk from side to side, and then there are films projected. It's all site-specific, and the films have to match their surroundings. So that just very briefly. And the democratic approaches, we do not have like the seat in a cinema that keeps you there. So if you don't think the program is interesting, you don't like the films, or you're bored, or you have something better to do, then people can just leave if they want to, and you don't have this seat or the cinema that keeps you from leaving the room without everybody noticing it. So the interesting thing is that you need to attract an audience and you need to keep it with you, and this works quite well, I must say. So in general, in Hamburg, we have something in between 500 to 1,000 people following us, watching films on walls. And this is very interesting. And in the terms of, and I'm trying to get that connection to how cities can profit from that whole thing, actually a wall as a screen has been sent by the Hamburg City Marketing Association to other cities or other countries to promote the cultural life of Hamburg and the cultural scene. And this, of course, can be a very, very mixed bag if it comes to if you as a cultural association or even as an artist, if you want to be involved in marketing your city, if you are actually the person who says, yeah, everything in my city is that nice, so I really like to put my name in front of that as a vehicle to promote it, which is like a very, very strong issue to talk about, because it derived from some 15 years ago when the whole Hamburg marketing thing actually started. They have like an own company within the city to do that. And they actually started to give, they had a magazine that they put out, and they had on the front of the magazine, they had all these, they had like small badges, like some punk rock style from bands, or stickers from festivals and so on. And then some of the artists who were actually on there, like especially musicians, they said, nobody asked us if you want to do that. And just because we are from Hamburg, we are not the spokesperson for you. And this started a very, very interesting dialogue in Hamburg about this whole city marketing aspect if it comes to cultural representation. But just to give this as a hint that this is like a huge thing that we could actually talk about, let's say, for the next 5 hours, which we don't want to. But if it comes to the festival, also there are like many different things you were asking. So how to get the audience there, and as you said, we are in that very lucky position that we have our own festival center that we set up every single year, which is in a quite strange, specific, or maybe spectacular location. I think the one that you've been Emilia back then, that one doesn't exist anymore. It's been torn down now, which is a pity, because it was beautiful buildings. And now for the last 4 or 5 years, we've been in old parcels sorting halls of DHL. So basically next door to us, there are still people sorting packages and putting them in trucks. And and now I think I make the whole circle around. So what we can do for our city is that we actually we're looking for spaces like these that we develop into something culturally. And by now, actually, something where we might have been a bit responsible for is that the city has the plan to keep this area as a cultural location. So this worked out quite well, but in the end, we will only believe it when it actually is there as we want it to be, because by now, they say in 2027, they will start a big change there. So it will become a cultural building. But I think as a festival itself, having these specifics, having these unique things, is something that attracts an audience. So of course there's programming, which needs to be good and exciting, because then otherwise the filmmakers, because they trust us that their films are running in an interesting surrounding. And of course, then is when you are invited to festivals, you select where are you going to. That's at least what I think. Where are you going to meet interesting people, other interesting filmmakers, and also where do you get something out of the festival besides just a good programming? And sometimes it's the fact that you can go to beautiful, nice cities that you haven't been to before. But then, of course, like a city which is right in the middle of Europe, which is easily reachable, like Hamburg, and which is a beautiful city in a way, is something where you can say, yeah, I've always wanted to go, but I have been there, let's say 5 times. But the festival then again should give you something that makes you want to say, I want to be there and I want to experience things at the festival. So that's why we do many site-specific things like video installation. And actually, basically, you got me to visit your festival, this topic festival, when you said that you have like concerts and other things as well, right in the middle of the city center, because that really sounded very, very interesting. So I think you need to have like this balanced mixture of good programming, something interesting to give to people, being in a city that you want to visit. But then again, we have people coming to Hamburg at the festival. They stay with for 4 or 5 days and they don't see anything but the festival. So this either means we're doing a very good job at the festival or that the city is very boring. So I'm not so sure about that.
Oh yeah, that's a good question, and I would love to hear Yanni's perspective on that. When you hear the festival perspective, you see a little bit behind the scenes how it happens that you might receive an invitation with your projects, and what do you base your decision on? Is it still A-list festival, or maybe nice location that you would like to visit, or the impact on your career, meaning potential networking opportunities? I'm super curious, especially that you are not, as you said, the person that announces that everywhere on your social media and so on.
So yeah, actually, it might be a boring answer, but it's all those things in some way combined together. Of course, when it comes to important festival, like, you know, these kind of aspects that it's qualifying for some kind of film prize, or it's A class, or these aspects, of course, I consider to go into it more, and which is even more important for these kind of festivals. You can get also state funding when the state helps you to go to the festivals as well. But I can't deny that, of course, like some kind of I love to travel, and but I love to travel, but I hate tourism. So but going to the festival is and to the place or to the country you have never been to, it's like some kind of, you are immediately going through a bit more local aspect, a bit less. You will have something to do, even if the city will turn out to be boring, which has never happened. You always have local connection, someone to tell you something about. That's important as well. Okay, there once was a festival when I was very tired, and it happened in the middle of the summer, and just by the sea, and I chose to I will go to swim for a while, but yeah, and for example, at this moment, like when I'm traveling with a short documentary, and and I'm making my first feature documentary, as you mentioned. And I'm not a documentary filmmaker, because like all my works have been fixed, so it's kind of a new world. At this moment, it's kind of my decision to try to go to all the documentary focused festivals, because it's a new world for me. I'm traveling with the short, but next year will be a feature. So I want to, also industry wise, to understand it more, meet people more, maybe make some connection for my feature film. So it's something about that. So answer, there is no one strict answer, this or that. It's traveling, important festivals.
It's funny that you said that you hate tourism but still enjoy traveling and going to places when you have a reason. This is basically also what we are talking about, finding this reason to visit places. And Urszka, I wanted to ask you, because of course I can imagine that still, even though Slovenia is such a beautiful country, you might get mistaken with Slovakia very often, or when you select a film, that filmmakers have really no idea where is it taking place. So from my perspective, of course, the city of Maribor is benefiting a lot from having people like you and organizations like yours putting so much effort to bring people together. But I wanted to ask you about your experiences, but also bring it more on a general level. Like, what is, in your opinion, the biggest benefit for the cities to host film events or film festivals? And if there are any good practices that you would share with us from your own field, but also maybe you visited some other festivals that inspired you to make it memorable, not to make it just boring. Yanis was lucky to attend festivals that give some local guidance, but maybe you have something to add in that.
Yeah. So I think there is basically two ways of speaking about film festival and tourism. If we just for like a minute abandon the idea of tourism and focus on why people like artists or producers or curators or other partner film festivals come to a specific festival in a specific city, I think it's really important to like organize the festival around the existing things that the city can offer. So for example, if it's a city next to the seaside, obviously, there is a huge benefit, and probably the festival also includes the beach or the seaside into the program somehow as a venue or some other way. So I think it's really important to think how the existing benefits of a city, although it might be very boring, but for example, Maribor is probably not one of the exciting cities because it's quite small. I mean, it has a beautiful nature and a small city center, but still, but I think you can still organize it around the benefits that it already has, but not only connected to the like traditional touristic points, but to the alternative places that the city already has or something like that. Because I think it's best that the city doesn't pretend to be what it's not, and to use all that it can. And I think that, so people who come to the festival, specifically international guests, I think that they first, when they come specifically for the festival because they know they will meet like-minded people and be able to exchange the knowledge in their artistry. But I think then how the festival is organized and how they feel that they can approach. So I think that the theme of the festival has to be really approachable. And what we have heard as the comments from guests is that it's really important to them that they can feel that they're like a part of the family or a community, because everyone of the team is there all the time. We take them for walks or discuss a lot of things with them. So we are always present on site, and that's how they feel welcome. And that's why they want to come next time. Not only because maybe they don't even won't have a film next time in the competition program, but they would want to because they felt so good at the festival. But if we go now to this level of what the film festival can bring to the city, it's really interesting because we have a lot of discussion about that. And our organization is also part of a consortium of 5 organizations from Maribor who deal with film in different ways: film production, film festivals, film screenings, film education. The consortium is called Film in Maribor. And we have prepared in the past 2 years a lot of strategic documents for the municipality, trying to just present film culture as something that is really important and has been always really important for Maribor people, and how to be able to develop this further within the local environment with the help of the municipality. And one of these documents had a small chapter, tourism. And when we were writing this chapter, we were very aware of that it's not always good, and it also depends on who is the mayor at a certain moment to promote any kind of cultural organizations or events or programs as something that has an economic value. Because if you do that, then from that time on, again, it depends on who the mayor is. They will only look at cultural programs, art, through this economic value. And if they won't see that, they will say, okay, we don't finance that, or we think this doesn't bring anything for the city. So at the moment, we have a mayor who is very business oriented, very neoliberal, and that's, it can be extremely problematic if we would want to promote film festival as a good way to bring tourism to the city. So we want to bring artists to the city for all the reasons that we have been talking about, but not necessarily like it's also good if people from neighboring countries come and visit festival, but not necessarily want to promote the festival as something that is very good for tourism.
Yes, I think this honesty and transparency of your own identity that you are, I haven't been, but I can imagine that you are not a red carpet festival.
Not at all.
Not trying to push it too hard. And yeah, Sven, would you like to comment on that?
Yes, because I think it's very interesting to see what you just said, like trying to get a plan done, what you can do with your festival for the city, how you can use your city and promote it with the festival in a way. And my absolute favorite example for that is, and I think Emilia, you've been there, is when you go to DokuFest in Kosovo, which is basically was one of the major outlets to actually get people into from culture base into Prizren to see the city. And this festival has done so much for the city, in my opinion, which is unbelievable. And I really adore and appreciate the work that has been done there, because starting completely from scratch with a very difficult surrounding to it. And now the interesting thing is that for me, it's one of the festivals that I really love going to, on the one hand, because I meet very interesting people there, see good programming, and then I really support the festival in any way that's possible. So we do have screenings there from our youth and children's section from Hamburg. And so whenever we're asked if we could support or jump in a way, of course, we'd be happy to do that. And now the funny thing is that just recently I went to Albania on vacation, and I talked about people that asked me, why did you get the idea that you come to this area for vacation? I said, yeah, I'm going quite frequent to a festival in Kosovo. And they would just go, oh, DokuFest, you've been. So basically everybody knows that festival in the area, and this is spreading around, which is such a fantastic thing. And so maybe I might have become a spokesperson for them in a way, but I really think if you look at that, because the idea was there to bring people there from other countries, because vice versa, it is not possible for most people from the country to actually go to other countries. So if you aren't able to do that, just do it the other way around. So I think this is a very good example how this might work. And then also, if you look at what your organization or festival can do for even a big city like Hamburg, where we are, of course, we are a brand and household name here, but we're not that big as compared to, of course, Berlinale or whatever. And but I think we are part of the cultural mix that's taking place in the city. And our work is that we do something for the city to be a central hub for, in our case, short filmmaking. So what worked actually very well in the last decades, since the festival is run by the short film agency Hamburg Kurzfilmagentur, who is one of the main, let's say, players is a better word, but I don't come with anything better right now, if it comes to short film in Germany. And so we know if you want to do something with short films, you want to meet people, if you want to organize things, then Hamburg is the city for you to go to, which actually ended up with us being the organizers of the German Short Film Award just last week here in Hamburg. And during that, we had many officials, like the German Minister of Culture. She said, yeah, it's the place to go to if it comes to short film. And this, of course, is very flattering to us to hear. On the other hand, we know that there are in many different German cities, there are people who do a job definitely as good as we do. So we don't want to brag that much. But so it's something which works quite well, because now you have that mixture. You know, okay, you have the short film festival, you have the short film award there, you have year-round activities that work quite well, and so through that you actually strengthen the foundation of cultural work in your city in a way as well. Even though it might not be something like, let's take this huge music festival, Reeperbahn Music Festival, where they have, I have no idea, let's say 120, 150,000 people coming there. So I think as a part of the cultural identity of a city, a festival can work very well, and is very important.
Okay, and you mentioned before a little bit more of a dark side, how the cities are maybe overusing our work. And I also see quite a danger in that. That sometimes because we rely on public funding, we are needed as some sort of when we want to when the decision makers want to brag about the successes or drop some nice names. But of course, the lack of structural funding for what we do is very often a problem. So if any of you would like to comment on that, of course, without complaining too much, because the fact that we can organize what we do. Or another question that I have in mind, or I'm curious, because of course you, Urszka, mentioned some sort of collective effort, which I find pretty nice that this is happening. But on the other hand, very often we compete in between sectors for attention, for audiences, for funding, and how to build this cultural policy together. That's another challenge that we face these days. So if anyone would like to comment on that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I can speak again from this from the local experience, and also a bit on the national level. So in 2012, Maribor was the European Capital of Culture, but it was a very bad project, because it outsourced basically all the work, and it left very little infrastructure. And at that time, I think especially NGOs started to see that it definitely doesn't work if everything is organized top down. And this realization became very strong, that the organizations, NGOs or non-formal collectives working in art and so on have to join efforts if we want to like really put Maribor on the map of cultural cities. So there were like a lot of initiatives, a lot of very successful collectives, programs going on. But through the years, this became a little bit so not so tight anymore. But the organizations that I mentioned before that are connected now in the Film in Maribor consortium, because we noticed, so we are 5 organizations in Maribor in different ways dealing with film. It's really good to join forces, because we have one of the very strong goals that we have is to bring art cinema back, city cinema back to Maribor, and we can do this with everything that we already are doing. So I think this was like a very organic collaboration, and it continues. It has several difficulties also connected to competition, but we try to overcome that. We have like we have bi-weekly meetings. So every month we have 2 meetings. I'm not sure which expression is right, and discuss and plan programs. And on the national level, and this is connected to the financing also, the festivals have also formed like a more loose collective, which is mostly focused on addressing the fact that on the national level, film festivals are a bit overlooked because there is like film production, very strong film education financing for that, not very strong, but stronger. And film festival don't seem to have like a proper space on the national level. So it's just as if the Ministry of Culture and the Slovenian Film Agency, as if they don't know what exactly to do with them or how they would fit them in some kind of a strategy. We are in a strategy of the film culture of Slovenia, but still, and that's, we always have to fight and always have to fight for bigger finances, because film festivals are definitely underfinanced on the national level, and on local level really. I mean, we always in Slovenia, it's you always have to apply to open calls, so it's never get the money just on your bank account. I believe that's similar to anywhere else. But yeah, on local level, there is really small amount of money that we can get from the Slovenian Film Agency. You get more money, but still it's very little. So and here is important how the festival is within the local environment, how is it recognized, because then you have a lot of partners that offer you free space, help you with technical equipment and so on. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yanis, I wanted to ask you, as a Latvian filmmaker who recently also very much mapped the state of current events in Latvian cinema infrastructure, or how the film culture is doing also in very small forgotten cities. Just to give the audience a little bit of overview, in your film you visited how many? More than 30 small cinemas, very often. No, not that many.
No, they are not so much to visit in Latvia. They are like, I don't know, if we exclude multiplex cinemas, that they are less than 10 to visit. So I tried to visit all of them, but yeah, not all of them, but no, not close to 30.
Okay, but you still visited many, and also your film screened at Riga International Film Festival. There are 2 in the city, also 2 Annas. And I wanted to ask you about your perception of the film events culture in also not a big country, Latvia. But is it also, you find this sector very competing, or more focus on together collective effort to bring more visibility to talent and community?
Yeah, so I listened to what Ushka told, and I found a lot of similarities between Slovenia and Latvia, even though that at this moment, at exactly this moment, I shouldn't criticize like Latvia, political culture on Latvian cinema. Maybe now it's getting a bit better and better, but for years it wasn't like that. But if we talk about film festivals in Latvia, I would say there is Riga International Film Festival, which is not competing with anything else. And then there are the specified festivals. Yes, you mentioned 2 Annas, which is for short films, but also their attitude, as they are based on this educational institution, they always try to stay in a good way a bit punk, like they are not the ones who will go the ones who will make industry meetings and stuff like that, and the rest of it they are still. But I think the main problem also is that everything about film culture, and that's, I think, Slovenia has the advantage. Like everything which comes to the film happens in Riga, the capital. And there is nothing festivals or something like that outside Riga. And they are also like for the documentary world, there is this Baltic Sea docs, which is like kind of this industry meetings, and which comes also as well from this Latvian documentary cinema tradition, which is much stronger than the fiction. But yeah, so basically Riga, if it is not competing with anything, I would say it's very well organized and nice festival who is growing and growing. And yeah, maybe it's just a competition between 3 Baltic capitals. Like in Vilnius, this Kino Pavasaris, Tallinn Black Nights, and Riga, if so yeah, and basically 2 Annas can compete with just the short section of Riga, if that would be more, but I think none of them think that they compete. They are just like 2 Annas specified on short films.
But that's a very good point that you made about capital cities very often being the center, and smaller towns lacking film initiatives that could attract people to travel there. Also, the traveling there, as it can be more problematic.
Exactly.
I really... But on the other hand, that can be also an advantage. And we have quite some examples within the film industry of very small places hosting very big events.
And actually, I think that that's a really good aspect, because in the big cities, like kind of these film festivals can disappear, but it's a very nice feeling that in a small place for a week, this town becomes all just about film festival. And also for that reason, Riga International Film Festival, like for last 2 years, are organizing these making these satellite kind of events in one city each year, other town in Latvia.
I think it's very interesting when you say like who are the festivals competing with? Are they competing with like the 3 other capitals and all that? Because they said, yeah, mainly it's the capitals that are attractive. But I think that one example that you're hinting is that if you go to Clermont Ferrand, a city which most people don't really have on their map unless they work in the tire industry, it's the place to be for short film, with how many people? 160,000 people watching short films there. So this is quite interesting. But then, of course, it becomes like 2 different aspects of competing came through my mind in the last minutes. And on the one end, back in the analog days, when basically you had 2 copies of your film and you had to really figure out where do you want your film to be screened. Because I just read from a German filmmaker something on his Instagram that this weekend his film was screened at, I think, 15 different festivals worldwide, which is something which has never been possible in the, let's say, mid-90s and so on, because then you had 2 copies and they were traveling, and all those festivals had to figure out where to send the film when and all that. And we had people traveling during the night by train to get the copy from that festival to this other one. So that competition fortunately doesn't exist that much anymore, but that on the other hand makes it a bit that all our festivals that we screen, that it's easier to screen similar things, let's say it like that, in a very positive way. And but then also the competition, like who are we competing with if it comes to funding? Very interesting aspect. And then I think sometimes you can hear that between the lines. Let's not criticize our government or funding partners that openly, because that happens quite often. People say, we don't want to criticize them because we actually are dependent on them, which is something. It's not that we in Hamburg would say, yeah, what the government does, we don't appreciate that they're funding us. But if they do something which we don't like at all in the cultural sector, we are all very open about it to criticize them. And this is sort of based on an approach in Hamburg. We just read that last weekend, back again, an article when the festival was funded, and then in the end they figured out they need some money for a festival. They went to the city, and then the cities told them, we didn't ask you to put up a short film festival. So, but in the end, the festival got the money back then. And so, but this approach works quite well. So they never asked us to set up a festival. Now it's a very well-running and well-situated festival in a way. So this is an approach that works very well, but this is, of course, it's a luxury thing to be able to do that, because if you really are dependent on the money, and if you are, of course, in other circumstances where you have to be nice to the officials to get your money, this is something that I really understand, that this is an issue totally. So I think there are so many different things that we are competing with, that we are trying to attract local audience, and then we have to compete with other local events that are taking place. We were really angry when a huge festival, a jazz festival in Hamburg, just put it on. They were actually the weekend before us, and now they're on the same dates as we are. But then again, it's a commercial run institution or festival, so we can't say anything against it. And we're always trying to tell the city, please don't put any, or encourage to have any other events on the same dates, because that doesn't make sense even in a city with 2 million people. So we're competing for audience. We're competing, of course, for the best films, not that much anymore as in the mid-90s. We're competing for funding. And then we're competing for industry people. We want to have all the interesting filmmakers there, because then they say, nah, I'd rather go to this other place. And then Emilia just said that earlier, sometimes even the filmmakers that come to your festival, even if you don't have a film of theirs, which I think is like the highest grade of recognition you can get, because they have like a choice for all that. And hopefully there are some who think that for our festival, I mean, I know there are a few, but so this is really nice. But yeah, I think there is competition, but then the nice thing again is, especially in the short film festival world, it's not a brutal competition that we start not to like each other, because it's all about working together. And in the end, we are sort of fighting for the same thing, which is to bring short films and films in general to an audience and to present them in the best way possible. And so I think that's why I like working in this industry, because competition is not that bad. Yeah.
Dear audience, I'm encouraging you to ask some questions, because of course it will be very nice to hear your thoughts. And I would like to put a new perspective on our conversation, because of course we are living in a very, very specific time, and much things changed globally. We are much more aware of not only some risks regarding tourism and some health crisis arising every now and then, but also, of course, the impact on the environment that the festivals are causing. And of course, we would love to be very, very international, but we know that there is a price that we are paying for that. So I wanted to ask you, like, what is your perception of that? How do you try to balance, of course, the needs of the industry, but also being aware of all these implications? I'm curious if you manage to have any sort of digital extension of your events. Yes or no? Why? What is your perception of that? I know it's a lot of questions that I'm asking at the moment again, but I'm super curious. Yanis, you mentioned that your film also had your didn't go to that many festivals, or maybe it was screened online somewhere. Maybe you would like to start.
Yeah, I can. It went really just to one festival, so it was the first one, and then kind of the film was cut off, and actually I didn't even. I remember the travel, but to be honest, because with this kind of digital not in person aspect, it just became like recording a speech on a cell phone and sending it somewhere. But now 2 years later, my film was like, some of them I remember the names, but some of them were just like somehow forgotten. So yeah, and I think this not in person aspect is a nice thing, which came which is possible thanks to technologies, and this idea was given by the COVID. And I think this if the part of the festival is not in person, for some people it's very useful, especially for some kind of producers and distributors, not all of them, because like these kind of let's call them decision makers are just like with these film reels in the old times. They can be in person only in one place at the time, but they are important for so many like producers and filmmakers, and so they can arrange meetings being in one place and arranging meeting in another place, or there are just some people who prefer enjoying films at home. Not me. But
yeah,
but yeah.
I can imagine. And Urszka, are you now more conscious of all this problematic parts, or does it mean that you focus more on your really local audience? How does that work?
So yeah, generally, I am personally very frustrated with behaviors of governments, and especially now after COP27, and also with just personal behaviors of people, because I was one of the naive ones who thought that, after COVID, people will realize that, COVID is a part of the climate crisis, and people would just stop traveling as much in their personal lives. As we see, it didn't happen. And we have been discussing this a lot in the past years within the festival team, how to just make the festival like even more climate friendly. So from the beginning, we have had, because the one of the strategies of our festival is also to have like a common eating space where a few people cook together, and then they cook for all the, so not a catering, but people cook together that are our friends and volunteers, and then all people who are guests of the festival eat everyday lunch at the same time in a courtyard of the space where we have the festival. And food has been from the beginning vegan, so vegan meals, only vegan meals, and locally sourced. So these we had from almost from the beginning of the festival, and we continue with that. With the guests, so the artists or the producers and so on, we have been trying to, in the past years, when discussing how they will come to the festival, we try to encourage them to take public transport, so either trains or buses or cars, not to fly, or so we say that we prefer people not to fly. There is just this informal direction or strategy for so-called green office, that any traveling that can be done less than 10 hours, you take it in less than 10 hours, you do them with train or bus, not with or with a car, not with the plane. So we try to abide by that rule. And we also try to encourage, when having stop motion workshops for children and professionals, to use recycled materials. So not to buy new things. And we provide them with recycled materials. We have some events that are hybrids, so online and live. And in 2020, we had more events online. So the festival was in person, but there were some events that were only online. I feel there is a benefit in that, connected to what Yanis has also mentioned. And also, I think if here, I would love to be in Lublin, for example, but for this specific conference, I think it's quite a good idea to have it online, so not that 3 additional people didn't travel to Lublin and had their imprint on the climate being made bigger. I think it's an ongoing, actually, questioning.
You mentioned quite some strategies to reduce the impact, and if I may ask you yourself, do you take part in online events as well, or apart from today being a speaker, but also as to broaden your, I don't know, industry horizons and stuff like that? Are you?
Yeah, in general, I prefer nowadays not to. Also, I think it's a relief, also in time saving. For example, because in Slovenia, Yanis mentioned this also before, but Slovenia is also extremely centralized. So most of the things happen in Ljubljana, in the capital. And before COVID, you would travel to Ljubljana for 1.5 hours or 2 hours to have a meeting there for 1 hour and then come back, and it doesn't make any sense. So there are more things happening online, and I'm not really. Some people I know that are frustrated by Zooms. I am one of those who is not. So I think it's nice to go in person to a festival or any other event. I still do that, but I think some things are just much better online.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I think, there hasn't been any time in the last, let's say, 20 years where all of us have been so much talking about what we are, why we do what we are doing, and in which way are we doing this. So this was very interesting that we, in the last 2 years, there was so much trying to find the core or the sense of everything that we are doing. And of course, the main thing, in my opinion, why we're doing this is bringing people together. And of course, this is the thing where it's getting very, very difficult if it comes to that traveling issue. Let me get back to that in a minute. But if it comes to greener festivals, an issue that had been up there for the last 2 or 3 years quite a lot as well. There are all these common sense things, of course, if it comes to vegetarian, vegan food, regional food, trying to work with local companies, and your power supply has to be green and all that. So I think those are those things we don't really need to talk that much about anymore, because it is common sense in a way. But this other, the elephant in the room that basically touches the core of what we are doing and bring people together. And of course, it's very, very convenient that we are able to sit together here and talk, because I just mentioned to my colleague, I'll be in Poland later on and talk. And so by now it changed to that, even the wording that I'll be at that panel in the Netherlands, even though you're still in your own country. And of course, if you look at it in hindsight, I think I did that some years ago, that I was invited to speak at a panel in London for 20 minutes, and I flew there in the morning and then returned in the evening.
Oh no.
It's something which does not sound anything good at all to do that on an environmental point of view. Absolutely not. But the difference is that even those, of course, I wouldn't want to do that right now, because it just time-wise, it just doesn't make any sense, because I would want to stay there longer than just to be there for 20 minutes. But all those people that you meet around those events itself, that's the important thing. Let's say it's like the gray area surrounding your screening, the talk, the thing that you are there for. Because I actually enjoyed it quite a lot, that after those Zoom meetings in the last years in the big groups, basically the drink after the Zoom, when people got together and the audience was blocked out, and then you started chatting, talking, and there were some funny moments at other festivals where somebody basically forgot to turn down the live streaming, so you could actually hear everybody talking after. You know that scene when on news shows, when the news show stops and the two people sitting there just start to chat to each other, and you always want to know what the hell they're talking about. And so I think with festivals, those are these important moments where the creative process basically starts. So we always say the most creative part of our festival is basically at the bar at night, because people meet each other there, and then they can talk about what they listened to or what they talked about earlier in the day, and that's where all these the nice connections are started. So I'm really torn between this let's not do that much traveling anymore, and let's just go there, because I think it's very, very difficult. I think the sheer number of events that I personally would go to has lowered, certainly, because I wouldn't want to fly to London for 20 minutes. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. And then I think like in my case, it's for time reasons and having a family and all that, I have, let's say, 4 or 5 festivals that I go to every year. And then there are those that they are basically sort of mandatory that you are there, because everybody is there, which is sort of a circle in a way. You go there because everybody's there, because you go there, everybody is there. So that's just a bit weird. And then, of course, you want to see other places. You want, in my position, I want to see how other festivals are doing their work. I want to see how they are using their spaces and what are they setting up, because that's something which is very interesting and inspiring to me as well. So I think this whole question has not been solved at all. It is a big issue, and I think something we can all be sure, let's just not do that thing traveling for 20 minutes by plane somewhere. There. Yeah, it's a difficult question. I think for filmmakers, the same thing. Like, should you go there? I think Dieter Koslik said that in a thing with Winterthur. The times are over that you fly a filmmaker to a cinema for 6 hours just to do this 5-minute Q&A after the film, because I think you want to be involved in more than just that.
Well, I can only add. I totally agree with all of you. I think the biggest test, maybe the COVID years brought the biggest test for festivals that really rely on only international audience and international crowds. Those with very strong local connections and community, they were doing relatively okay despite everything, and maybe that was the biggest shift. I'm also personally very happy that we can have some parts online, not necessarily everything must be in person. It's very tough, and things like traveling somewhere for 20 minutes are just not cool anymore, also due to environmental issues. And for those who are more interested in that, we're not gonna continue, because probably we could bring on the table many examples of not only green festivals, but also green filmmaking. For example, Short Film Conference has published 2 alternative codes of ethics, or how to make your event greener, with a lot of green tips in that field. We don't have any questions from the audience, so maybe the digital format is not that engaging as it used to also, or maybe our audience is just shy. So just to slowly conclude this session, I wanted to ask all of you for some sort of last round of remarks. What do you think is the future of the cultural/festival tourism? If you see it in bright colors or not necessarily, and how do you feel about what's about to happen?
If I can start, like I also have heard the same thing about tourism or something like that. Why the plane tickets went so expensive that kind of like airplane companies weren't sure that people after COVID will really want to fly, and something like that. And actually happened the completely opposite. Everyone is traveling like crazy, and also in the Riga Film Festival, I have never seen such a packed audiences. Like, it has been the most attended Riga International Film Festival ever. And about of course it's good not to fly for 20 minutes or for 5-minute Q&A, but I think humans still need humans, not only through the computer screen.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Urszka, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends a lot on the strategies that on local or national level are adopted regarding the cultural field, which includes more and more also cultural tourism. And as I said before, I think it's really good that they take in consideration the festival or film festival tourism, but I would really warn against economizing it too much. So to say, okay, we will support this only if so many people come to Maribor, for example, for that reason. Also, I think that it's really good to focus a lot on the local and national audience for a festival, not only because of maybe making a festival greener, but also because it also depends on the country, of course, but also to promote a specific form of art, you know, more among the audience who maybe otherwise would not have heard of it or take any bigger consideration in it. And with it, you have, you know, people who will maybe campaign for you if you would need like either more finances or a city cinema, art cinema, and so on. So yeah, you make like a broad network of supporters through that, I think.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, and also I totally agree with everything that's said before, because I think it's we shouldn't make it as economic as possible, because then it would lose its soul in a way, and that doesn't make that much sense. So I think if you focus on your local or national audience, the international will come anyways, because they see that you are doing good work there, and that is something that's interesting. And so with everything that you set up, you have to always think about, so who are you doing that for? For example, when you put up special programs at film festivals, at a short film festival, and you think, yeah, but this issue had been on this and that festival in this other country. Yes, but then the industry, they know that, but our audience, they haven't seen that, because they are from Hamburg and they don't travel to other festivals. So there is something with the project that we will be doing with the Wallace Screen next year. We were invited, or are invited, to be at an island in the north of Germany, very, very posh place, like very rich people are living there. And they asked if we want to do a Wallace Screen there. And the initial idea was, nah, not really. So it's unless you can do something very controversial. But then we talked with people, invited us, and they said, yeah, because we think we need to do something for the people who are living there, who are from there, and who are not those very rich people that just come there for 2 or 3 weeks. Because if you do something for your local audience and for local people, you have a happy local audience, which reflects onto the outsiders that are coming there. And I think this is a very good approach. Do something which works very well within your city, and then people will figure out that it's there, and then they come. So you don't really need that international strategy. I think the international strategy should be do something very good, and where does it come from? If we build it, they will come. Something like that.
I think it's a very nice moment to conclude this session. Thank you so much for your time, your expertise. To everyone that was listening, please keep in mind the dates of the events and follow what's happening. I think it's a very interesting way to get to know cities, people, communities, as an alternative to just traveling as a tourist to a city you don't know with no clear plan. We are there to help. Film festivals, we can provide context for conversation. And just maybe one small anecdote before we finish. Yanis, I was in Portugal a few weeks back at a film festival in Porto, a very touristy city. And to my very big surprise, I never experienced that before. I was at a short film screening, your film was included, and there were many tourists. There were many people who were not the usual suspects, also not people from Portugal, but also, for example, a doctor from the Netherlands that was just visiting Porto and came across film festival, decided to spend a sunny day in a cinema. So
thanks for sharing it.
So this is a very varied environment that we work with, and let's hope that people will always like to follow what we do and share the passion for film. Thank you very much, and Lublin Film Festival in local cinema till still a couple more days to enjoy. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.